Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
It's totally a study of sort of toxic masculinity in 1970s teenage American men, seen through the lens of how they feel about their cars. And the twist here is that the car that this particular teenage nerd gets to raise his cool factor is evil. It's a living evil car, which has driven at least one other person to murder and desperation. And it's all about this relationship. This boy gets darker and darker. His spirit turns bleaker and bleaker the more he falls in love with Christine, the car. And as his sort of social standing raises, so does his emotional state deteriorate due to the influence of the evil car, Christine.
Hello, film fans. Joining us today in our studio, we have Tom.
Hello.
Felix.
Hello.
And Kobe.
Hi.
And we're here today to review John Carpenter's Christine. Thank you, as always, to the mighty people for the mighty, mighty tunes. And thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills.
Please do remember to write a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you can do where you listen to the podcast, because it really does help us.
And you can join in the conversation with us on Twitter
at Flixwatcher Pod and on Instagram
at Flixwatcher. Hello and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. Joining us today, we have Tom and Felix.
Hello. I am the Tom one.
Please say hello and introduce yourselves
He's
to
the
our
Felix
listeners.
one.
Hello, my name is Felix.
This is Felix's ASMR episode of Flixwatcher.
This is me moving a hairbrush.
Could you peel this banana into the microphone, please?
My t-shirt.
While I wank.
straight away leaning into the swearing aloud. And
We've popped open a beer and I'm going to get raunchy before the end.
Well, I brought some beers in because we're recording on a Friday, but also
End of term.
to celebrate that you were our first ever Flixwatcher guest before we'd even released an episode. So you had no idea what you were getting into. Yeah. Episode number 1. Mm-hmm. And you've come back.
Yeah, I'm not sure which order we recorded, but you said we definitely hadn't had any episode. And you were released as episode number 1 with Pirates and Adventure with Scientists.
Pirates and Adventure with Scientists. And the other film was The Woman in
Daniel
Black.
Radcliffe.
That's right, yes.
I like Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, I like Daniel Radcliffe, yeah. Christmas ham.
But yeah, thank you for joining us when we had nothing recorded and you took a leap of faith and said, this sounds like a good idea. Let's come and see these guys.
Thank you for inviting us.
That's right.
I like Camden.
I like Camden. I like films. I have Netflix, and you're both extremely nice people to chat to. So it was very easy to do.
That's the point.
No, we didn't. No.
Yeah.
Well, I assumed you weren't murderers, which was a bit of a leap for both of us. But we decided there's 2 of us will probably be okay.
I wouldn't be okay with murderers.
Okay.
Even with you.
Really?
Well, you're quick, of course, but I would.
I'm lithe and surprising.
Tom Crowley is surprisingly springy.
Mm-hmm, that's right. And my meat's very stringy. So you don't want to eat, kill, and eat me.
So we'd go for the Felix one first. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, go for Felix. Well, my escape plan was to throw Felix at you.
Right, sure.
Like Wolverine, who is it?
I can throw a Felix.
Wolverine.
I can throw a Felix, but not David.
No, exactly. No. David's too tall.
Yeah.
Unwieldy.
So we are talking about Christine today, which is your choice, Tom.
That's right, it was.
Can you tell us why you chose it and give us a synopsis in 1 minute or less?
I absolutely love John Carpenter. I don't think I've ever seen a John Carpenter film I haven't enjoyed at least a lot. Maybe not a huge lot, but they're all very enjoyable to me, at least a bit. Christine is It's totally a study of sort of toxic masculinity in 1970s teenage American men.
Sure.
Seen through the lens of how they feel about their cars. They're obsessive about their cars. They want to look cool. They want to get girls, pick them up in their cars. And the twist here is that the car that this particular teenage nerd gets to raise his cool factor is evil. It's a living evil car, which has driven at least one other person to murder and desperation. And it's all about this relationship. This boy gets darker and darker. His spirit turns bleaker and bleaker the more he falls in love with Christine, the car. And as his sort of social standing raises, so does his emotional state deteriorate due to the influence of the evil car, Christine.
Helen, Christine.
So I hadn't seen this before, so I was really looking forward to seeing it because it's obviously based on a Stephen King novel.
Yes,
is it?
Yes, it is. One of the few adaptations on John Carpenter's work.
Is the book called Christine as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can kind of really tell that. And I just really love the concept of a female car that is also a murderer.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that I really enjoyed about it. There's some great special effects in this. There's some really awesome car animatronics kind of going on. It is very, very, very much this is 80s adaptation of a Stephen King film by someone who traditionally made their name making horror films.
So you liked it?
Yeah, I did like it. It kind of a little bit slow, but on the whole, I really liked it. And basically, there's this guy, Arnie, and he's kind of the nerd, and he ends up buying Christine where she's all broken up and he's taken shop. So he does her up, makes her look
his parents' wishes.
Yeah, makes her look all sexy, and then he kind of becomes like this sort of greaser and ends up pulling like the hot chick in school, but also he's secretly sort of becoming sort of semi-possessed by Christine and gets really kind of upset if anyone says anything bad about her.
Felix, you're someone who doesn't drive. Do you appreciate cars?
I do drive.
Oh, do you? Oh,
I don't drive.
Oh, you don't drive.
I don't appreciate cars.
Do you know, I do drive, but I've only ever driven in France.
Oh, really?
Yes, I got on a bicycle recently.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
It's like driving minus.
Really? Wow. Tell me more.
And I was on my bike, and there was a chap coming the other way, and I thought, oh, this idiot is on the wrong side of the road. Of course, I had done the thing where I was very much cycling on the wrong side of the road. I have never knowingly seen a John Carpenter film before or
have
read
we
a
never watched
Stephen
The Thing
King.
before or anything?
No.
Oh, really?
No,
okay.
I don't think we have.
Sorry.
A Halloween?
Halloween?
Never seen Halloween.
Escape to New York or
nope.
LA?
Nope.
Starman.
Starman.
Nope.
Starman is good.
Starman's one often kind of slips under.
It does. Did he write it? I think he did, actually.
Oh, I don't know.
I can't remember.
I didn't realise.
Starman.
Starman's great.
Does he? I'm not sure he says John Carpenter Starman at the top, does he?
Don't think
I think
so.
it might do. Maybe
on the poster.
now it does, yeah, because of now he's an auteur of legend.
Right.
The Fog.
The Fog. I fucking love The Fog. I'm sorry.
Who did the one Kurt Russell and the China?
Big Trouble in Little China,
Big
that
Trouble
was
in
him.
Little China.
That was him.
Was on John Carpenter?
I've seen none of these films.
He's like the trash... God, I've forgotten the name of the most famous film director of all time.
Steven Spielberg.
No, the other one. Shining. Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick. He's like the trash Stanley Kubrick.
Trash Kubrick.
He's made a million films, usually in a slightly different genre.
Right.
He got he got Christine and Kubrick got The Shining.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
I am very familiar with the name and certainly the music style through you. You've introduced me to those music kind of synthesize-y riffs, which I've then been able to pick up while watching 80s nostalgia stuff. So all of the John Carpenter references in Stranger Things completely would have gone over my head. Yeah. I'd not gone, oh, this is what Tom's talking
That's
about.
what I always bang on about. I saw John Carpenter live performing in schools. I actually saw Alan Howarth, who was his regular synth collaborator, one Halloween.
Right.
And one of the friends I went, this is at the Union Chapel in Islington.
Oh, really? That's a smaller place?
That's right. Yeah. It was. Well, Alan Howarth was there. And then he did the Troxy in East London.
Right.
So we saw Alan Howarth at the Union Chapel, and then my friend said, John Carpenter's coming back next Halloween. He's coming here. Do you want to see him at the Troxy? And I said, yes. And I saw both each year in sequence, and it was just wonderful experiences. Hayley Campbell, who's a friend of mine, was also at John Carpenter around the same time as me at the Troxy, and she said it was like going to church, which I think puts it as better than I ever could. He's brilliant.
So anyway. Your first experience, your first dabbling in John Carpenter, what were your thoughts?
I had a lovely time watching it. I think it's a film. I'm not classically really a horror person, which is why he's probably passed me by. Mm-hmm. I think it's a film that has a lot of great bits. I'm not sure that I enjoy it as a complete film. Mm-hmm. I don't think it works. It tells a story, but it sort of fasts forwards through a lot of the thing that I would have wanted to see, like how he fixes up the car.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I enjoyed all.
You like
all
the
that
shop stuff?
Yeah. And kind of just skips a lot of the character development to go, and now he's evil. Because...
See, I don't know. See, I was thinking, actually, this film made me think about what it is I love about John Carpenter so much. And I think it's that he shows immense class and restraint in writing and no class or restraint at all in the filmmaking. Because I heard the episode where you talked about The Thing.
Yeah.
And you watched that. And really... There's no, it's all show don't tell. It's all just going, you see someone, and often silently, because I think he is like a filmmaker first, and his composing and his writing come out of wanting to make films.
Yeah.
So things like, so many films, there are lovely little, very subtle background changes of character development, but it's quite low on dialogue. It's why Halloween's so good, with Jamie Lee Curtis's character is one of the best female leads in a horror ever. She never has a strident scene where she defines her moral character. She mainly just complains because her friends told Ben Tramer that she fancies him and she's really embarrassed. And I go, I believe in this woman. And I think similarly for me, Army in this, it's not an amazing, incredibly unique...
Army's the guy that buys Christine.
Army, the lead, the nerd who turns cool but evil. He's, fair enough, I think you're right. It isn't explored a lot, but part of me does go, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
He's evil now. Christine's evil.
He's not evil himself. He's just a little bit possessed by some kind of desire, because he doesn't actually kill so basically the car takes revenge on the jocks who've been kind of bullying Army, who shat on the dashboard.
Yeah.
So they break into where the car is kept overnight and smash it up and shit in it. And the car takes revenge because he's not actually driving at the time. So
I was thinking about this. So there are points where it's not clear whether he is behind the driver's seat or not. Sometimes you see there's no one driving the car.
There's at some points the car and the windows are properly blacked out.
Yeah.
So you can't...
Because they had stunt drivers driving the car, whether or not there's meant to be anybody in there.
Yeah, that's it. So it just made it easy. And those tend to be at night. One thing I found slightly jarring is how randomly chaotic evil the bad guys were, the jocks.
The bullies, yeah.
Yeah, for no particular reason, they just seem to be the worst.
They're just pieces of shit, yeah.
But one kid has a Swiss knife and gets beaten up by matey boy's friend. What's he called again?
Yeah, man. Army's best buddy. Friend. What's his name?
Which I thought was quite a weird scene, because there's three bigger guys and he manages to beat them all up and then tell the teacher, and then there's no kind of retribution for those guys. By the way, do you recognise who one of the jocks were, the bad guys?
No, who's this? What are you about to tell us?
Well, when it first came on the screen, I was like, is that Rick Moranis? And I was like, no, but something a bit weird about him. But he was the guy in Ghostbusters. Bill Murray's doing that paranormal trick with the cards at the start.
Okay.
Is that him?
Yeah, and there's a guy that gets shocked. And I was like,
is he the lead bully?
No, he's the medium bully. He's not
medium.
He's not the fat one, and he's not the big tall one with the switchblade. Yeah, it's the other guy. He's the guy in Ghostbusters.
Well, that's the right time, really, for this.
Yeah, 1983, and I was like, yeah, good. I'm glad Bill Murray took the piss out of you.
Yeah. Speaking of the beat up Cunningham, you piece of shit.
One thing I loved about this film was the side characters. I mean, the younger cast less, but the older cast are so beautifully cast and so beautiful. I think of the guy that sells him Christine.
Who is?
Oh, yeah,
I think
super
of the
weird.
garage owner.
So the guy that sells him Christine is the kid that Kevin was scared of in Home Alone.
He's the street salting man that Kevin's frightened of. Yeah, I'm selling this shithole. Buy me a condo.
Yeah,
he's brilliant.
Sorry, Karen. Felix, sorry.
Yeah, no. So, who else is
there?
The
guy who owns the mechanic lot.
Yeah, he's
so great.
Such a disgusting man.
Chatting
he's brilliant.
Whether or not that is the proto-example of that character in American culture, or whether it comes from earlier, because
I think it predates that.
Like a benevolent weirdo.
No. Literally mechanics.
Oh, okay.
If you think...
tobacco chewing scumbag who runs a junk shop.
If you think of like the vest wearing mechanic in Futurama who's always got like the cigarette sticking out of his lips.
Sal, who always pluralizes everything.
Yeah, him. He seems to be a direct descendant from this very specific character, and I wonder whether this archetype comes from film or if there is something more specific.
I'll posit to you, this is a theory, I haven't researched this. I bet you that guy who played the guy who runs the junk yard and car maintenance workshop, I bet you he was in 10 million films playing that guy.
Yeah.
He seems the type.
I think this also has a lot of lineages with a lot of high school films. I'm sure there's a lot of tropes that was followed from.
I was going to say as well about the bullies and the older characters. There's something about this which it's got a bit of the John Hughes about it. Like I think
so you had the parents who were like had their particular.
Yeah, their priorities and they're imposing pressure on Army, which is partly why he seeks independence and throws himself into the arms of Christine. But everything is, I think, because it's a horror film and it's Stephen King, John Carpenter, two brands that are known for being like a bit full on, a bit remorseless. You have the everything is just a bit more extreme in a way that I quite like. Like I've alluded to it before, but as with the rest of us, but the switchblade wielding like lead bully is so like the most terrifying guy at the high school. He's got mutton chops. It looks like he had his sort of growth spurt at the age of 12.
Yeah.
And now he's just kept looking older ever since. He looks 30, like a lot of people in high school movies do. But in this case, it seems intentional. Like he's the guy who hit puberty at 9.
Again, the principal who stops him is fabulous.
He's great, yeah. And he's really believably, like everything's a bit like, if you had, it's not like he's don't your books, Cunningham. He calls him like Cuntingham. That's the nickname he gives him. And the C-bomb that you hear is quite early in the film. You go, it's like they're setting their stall
persistent.
out. Yeah, he keeps doing it. And you kind of go, there's something that is a bit like, we're just going to be very sort of, we're not going to mess about. We're going to be very sort of blunt and straight to the point. And that, I think, his characterization. And if you had time, you could delve into his backstory and like his dad beat the shit out of him, and he hates the world now because of all of these reasons. But you don't. You sort of get that that's who he is straight away. And again, as you say, the principal who comes in to break up the fight. It's this really brilliant scene that I don't think I've seen done the same way in any other high school movie or teen movie, where it really is like this guy has some degree of authority over him, but he can't depend on that because this kid doesn't care about school or authority. No. So all he can do is sort of stand there, willing the kid to believe that if it came to a fight, he'd fuck him up. And it's really tense. Like you feel like any second that lead jock bully kid, that greaser tearaway, might just stab him.
And it gets properly physical.
It really does. He's shoving him against the wall and they're like about to go at it and it just avoids it. And it was really tense. And I've never seen that teacher-pupil dynamic done quite so well.
No. Because like you said, that guy, Switchblade guy, was coming up to 40.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and was towering over the teacher, but the teacher just had that kind of authority. He's been there, done that before, and he's like,
he's a rough bastard, basically. Yeah.
He's got the most amazing mutton chops. Looks like 2 paper aeroplanes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
his mouth
huge.
And all the high school kids, all the high school boys, I should say, were obsessed about. It kind of starts off like, Cunningham, you gotta lose your virginity.
Oh yeah, they're all obsessed.
With Gail, just in case.
What was this line? Gail, just in case.
Yeah, she's got a name, and they call her something like Gail, just in case, as like a reserve kind of thing.
I see. So she's the backup. So she'll have sex with anybody. I see. And it's all like that. It's all hormonal kids. And again, I think that's what.
This is like before Porky's as well. I was quite surprised that there was no nudity in this.
Yeah, no, it's pleasantly surprising.
Although I'm not sure, does Carpenter do that? It's not this kind of thing, is it?
Not his thing. Yeah. No.
I'm quite an advocate for Carpenter in terms of female characters because he's not. Halloween it's the archetypal slasher movie. There's teen sex. I don't know how much male nudity there is in it, but there's certainly like there's the scene where the girl's in the bed and she's got her tits out, which is like the classic. Every teenage boy rewound it on the VHS and freeze framed it.
I know what you're talking about.
Like what? Sorry, me neither. But actually, I didn't see Halloween until I was older. But anyway, it's that sort of slasher movie titillation that's there for the teenage boys. But apart from Halloween, it's not that common. He's not that exploitative. And actually, in films like Assault on Precinct 13, he's really good at introducing like a variety of female characters that are quite interesting. And like in this, there's only really 3 main characters. One of them is a woman who's a little bland, maybe a little nondescript, but has her moments of having a bit of agency and being a bit independent, which is nice. And by the end, it's her and the other guy who are trying to save the day. But Assault on Precinct 13 has two women in the leads, and one of them is a total mess in a very entertaining way. The other one is the like steely coolest badass in any film. And I think he's always had an eye on like racial diversity in his casts, and he's always had an eye on like female representation, almost by mistake. And it's never gone on about. It's just in films like Prince of Darkness, you'll have a huge diversity in terms of the actors he's cast in the main roles of, you know, the people who are there to try and solve the mystery and get knocked off one by one. And I don't know if it's because he's sort of a hippie child who is all about like equality and progress, or if it's just that he went, nah, this is the way films are going. I'm just going to have a bit of, you know, a variety of film casting. But I think there's something unsung about that to some degree, in a lot of his films at least.
Helen, you talked about special effects in this. And some of my favourite parts were like the car kind of unfurling itself and becoming whole again. Is that what you were referring to with the special effects?
Yeah, so basically the car gets smashed to shit and you're like, how can he ever repair this? And it turns out that it can self-repair. Which is basically, what does he say? It's like, show me what you've got or something.
Oh yeah, something like that, yeah.
And basically it's just like goes in reverse and everything pops back and it's super shiny and it looks really good.
Yeah, because even nowadays you think, nowadays that would be CGI'd.
Of course, yeah.
But then that's a real car. Obviously they've done it in reverse. But how they damaged it? So how did they do it in the first place? So it became damaged so they can unfurl it without like smash marks or without these kind of things. That's what I was looking at.
It's clever though, because we've reviewed The Thing before, and obviously we talked about the special effects there. I mean, John Carpenter's always been about how can I use special effects and what can I do and how can I push things forward and really do that. But I've never seen this kind of special effect before or done really well like this, I don't think.
I may be wrong about this, but I think they put an industrial vacuum in the car and made sure it was all sealed, you know, when there were air cracks, and then they just turned it on and then sucked the car in, and then they played the footage backwards. I think.
How many cars do you think they had? Because I think they do it a few times.
Yeah, they do it a few times. They destroy more than one, Christine, so there's at least...
I mean, there's one on fire for quite a long time.
Yeah. But they could buff that out.
Yeah, fine. Well, she could.
Something else that I really, really loved, which has kind of been used a lot later in horror, particularly in like Final Destination, is the use of pop songs to sort of tell how Christine is feeling. Which,
and Transformers too.
That's right. Bumblebee speaks that way. It's a rip-off. Anyway.
Which I really like in horror films anyway, and I think it's a really fun way of trying to guess what kind of coming up next. The thing I also really liked is that in the opening sequence you see someone basically nearly get their arm chopped off by the car, and then someone is killed inside the car. So you've got two deaths pretty much in the space.
Well, that first
instantaneously,
guy, the guy who gets killed, he obviously drops his cigar ashes in there. So, you know, I can understand. He's sentient.
On a beautiful like leather seat upholstery.
Just been made. The first guy who looks like he was fixing her or just checking to make sure she was ready to be sold. That's a bit harsh, I thought, with the arm.
Born bad.
Don't mess. Yeah, bad to the bone.
That's one of the taglines we can see here on our wall of pictures. Yeah, bad to the bone. Bad to the piston or something, I guess.
Speaking about that earlier scene, one thing that I enjoyed about it and thinking about this in terms of films of the period is it is steeped in 50s and 60s nostalgia.
That's right.
In a way that today we are steeped in 80s nostalgia.
Yeah.
I love seeing depictions of the past done in periods that are now very clearly the past.
So this, obviously, the choice of car is very much like harking back
Hot Rod, yeah.
But clearly the 50s must emblemize, certainly in the kind of American experience, this time of wealth and chrome and rock and roll
industry.
And
so for Cunningham, he's seen this car and thought, oh, that's the car I'd love to. He's seen this car
American
before.
Dream.
He's seen his magazines with it. He's kind of lusted after, and then there it was, and he's just taking shop, and he's like, this is my opportunity to do something here. I can really make a name.
I see it very much as a metaphor for the lie of capitalism. No, I don't.
But it's a nostalgia that we don't share. We don't have the same 50s nostalgia because 50s for us was the time of rationing, of poverty, of there's this. I saw somewhere or other that the pizza was being introduced in the 50s in the UK and it was sold as the Italian rarebit.
Love that. That's the best fact we've had. That's amazing.
I'm gonna try and bring that back.
The Italian rarebit?
Yeah. I think it's the best.
Felix and I are going to go for some Italian rarebit after
We
this.
are.
Which sounds more sexual now, actually. I'm worried about that. But it is fascinating, isn't it? Because you have that rolling nostalgia. Because this is a film made in the 80s about the mid-70s, I think. It's set in like 74 or something. When clearly in the 80s, they're nostalgic for that rock and roll image, which is reflected in the pop music they use of the 50s. And presumably that's what these guys grew up with, was that obsession with the 50s.
But I feel like we have had 80s nostalgia for maybe 20 years now.
Yeah.
And people are now
Neon,
diving
cyberpunk,
into 90s nostalgia, and people are kind of pushing it on.
I'm happy to stick in the 80s nostalgia for a bit.
But this is the thing.
Do you not want to buy yourself like a terribly patterned shirt, Kobe, and walk around listening
like a shell suit?
Yeah, shell suit
Spice
maybe.
Girls.
Yeah, that's right. Listen to Spice Girls. Listen
people
to
are doing 90s nostalgia, and it's not a non-thing, but it's no way as big as 80s nostalgia has been. And I wonder what the next period of time is going to be. Is it the 2010s? Is it the period up to the 2010s? Does it have to be a time of economic prosperity?
The 2000s is interesting, I think, because they've got a very... You think, we all lived through the 2000s, and you go, oh, there was nothing that descriptive about that. It was sort of a bit like the 90s still. But looking back, you do go... There really is something. Like I recently, me and my other half rewatched Rose, the first episode of New Doctor Who. It is so 2000s. Everything about it is somehow quintessentially
with
2000s.
Billy Piper.
That's right,
Yeah.
Billy Piper and Chris Eccleston.
Yeah.
Billy Piper, for example, is dressed as a woman from the 2000s. Just watch it, you'll see what I mean. It's hard to
Wearing
explain.
low-slung pants.
Yeah,
Cargo
low-slung,
pants.
exactly, yeah. Sort of low-slung, not cargo pants, I don't think, in the first episode. Maybe jeans.
Maybe
yeah.
like the slightly flared,
Yeah,
skin-tight
exactly.
things.
Flared bootcut jeans.
Yeah.
And
the bootcut.
a couple of vests on top of each other, and then variations on that.
What were those Levi kind of twisted? What twisted jeans?
Oh, twisted jeans. That was like late 2000s, wasn't it?
Lord.
Yeah, what a strange idea.
That was. I had mine in. I had mine at the turn of the millennium.
Oh, did you?
Okay.
2002. All right. I remember the adverts on TV with the. That's right. Yeah.
A couple of points before we get to the scores.
Yeah, go for it.
The lady, Cunningham's love interest, everyone's love interest, it seems, in the whole film, she was in Baywatch.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, she was Alexandra Paul. I can't remember what her name was, but I think she played second or third or fourth fiddle to Pammy
Anderson.
And the question I want to lead into the scores is what, and I did ask you this, guys, on the emails, other sentient cars in films? Because it seems...
The only thing I could think of is, it's not really that, was Steven Spielberg's Duel, but it's the guy driving it. And that's a lorry.
But an
anyway.
almost anonymous guy. It's like the vehicle is the enemy, isn't it? Yeah.
So what about Herbie? You never watched Herbie?
Herbie, he's evil, yeah. Herbie Goes Bananas.
And you got...
Brum?
Who?
Brum, yeah. Brum
What's
was...
Brum? Is that a kid? That sounds like a
Yeah,
kid's
it was a
show.
kid's show.
Yeah, Brum, yeah. Very much the children's Christine.
Evil?
No.
No, he's lovely.
Brum went out, had an adventure. Maybe he'd upset a literal apple cart or something. And then he'd go back to his garage.
Only by accident, though. Never on purpose.
Unless you got cars then, if you're talking animation.
It wasn't animation. I mean, I assumed they just didn't film
Brum
the
was-
driver.
Yeah, they just drove Brum
It was
around.
animation,
Yeah.
all right.
But cars are living cars.
Yes.
And talking 80s, it's Knight Rider as well.
Knight Rider, and also Maximum Overdrive, I believe, is another Stephen King product where all electronic products come to life and start trying to kill their owners. I think cars and trucks are involved in that.
Are there any uncool ones? Apart from Brum?
Uncool ones.
Uncool.
Brum's cool. What are you saying?
No, okay.
Uncool sentient cars.
Jesus.
Yeah. Are there any sentient cars who are just a bit rubbish?
Well, there's loads in the film Cars. There's loads of hicks and
Cars is a
morons.
bit
Yeah.
rubbish.
I
in
guess
It is a bit
also
rubbish,
of Transformers up until Bumblebee.
Yeah, true. I hear Bumblebee was great.
Technically
Yeah,
robots
Bumblebee's-
in disguise, though.
Bumblebee's great.
That's true. They were disguised as cars.
Should we head to the scores?
Let's go to the Flixwatcher scores.
Yes, please.
Hello, I'm Sam Pay,
And I'm Martin Zoltz-Orstwick.
and we are the two hosts of a podcast called Song by Song, where we listen every week to a track by the musical artist Tom Waits. You might know him for his gravelly voice, very nice, his appearance in films, but also his multi-decade spanning career involving blues, jazz, and all sorts of other kinds of experimental music.
So we're basically like a book club for Tom Waits. And if that sounds like your cup of tea, you can find us at songbysongpodcast.com or wherever you get podcasts.
As always, the scores are out of 5, and you may have decimal places if you wish. And we will start with you, Tom, with your recommendability, please.
I should make a point that I'm incapable by religion to give any John Carpenter film anything less than 5 stars. So this will be very tedious. 5.
Even Ghosts of Mars.
I haven't seen Ghosts of Mars. All right, fine, that might get 4. 4.5. But this certainly is a film I think...
You've put that in my box.
Ooh.
That's true.
That sounds quite
Felix has been wrongfully ascribed a 5. I do think, I think it's... he's a genre of his own. You can sort of tell a Carpenter film, and I would say mostly for very good reasons. Again, we're going up to, not as far as Ghosts of Mars, but maybe up to and including In the Mouth of Madness. But,
he had a very, 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 very good period.
A good run.
19, what?
When did
something.
Halloween come out? No, Assault on Precinct 13 was like 72, 3?
Yeah, it was probably about 10 years, 15 years.
I'm gonna raise you 20 years, and I'm gonna include In the Mouth of Madness, which I adore, which is not on Netflix. Well, it's worth looking up. I believe it's tied. I actually don't think you can get it legally in this country because its DVD release and I think its streaming release is tied up in various complicated distributor lawsuits for some reason. Just that one, and it's brilliant. But anyway, yes, I love it. I think they're very watchable John Carpenter films. I would recommend this to anyone.
Felix.
I think it's watchable, silly fun. I think if you're not a big horror person, then I probably wouldn't point this to you in this direction, but I would point it to someone who's into film and history of film. I think it's probably the first depiction that I know of this kind of thing that gets riffed off a million times afterwards. So I'm going to give it a 3.7.
Helen.
I'm going to give this one a solid 4. I really did enjoy it. I think it's a really good Stephen King Carpenter piece. It is a little bit slow, and I was expecting there to be maybe a little bit more gore or a little bit more inventiveness with the deaths. From sort of a
was it tend to be just run people over?
Yeah,
or like they go in the car and fall out of it.
Was that big lad being rammed into a wall not enough for you?
That was good, but then the other 3 were like killed off in a fire.
Yeah,
which was a bit.
What about Holland? Didn't Christine kill the mechanic?
Yeah.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Isn't the mechanic crushed into the dashboard?
Oh yeah, squash
by the reclining seats.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. I mean, sorry. So you're going to.
So that was a good one. I think, I really, really enjoyed it, but it is quite slow, and I think some people would probably have problems with the concept now if you're not
used to growing up with other sentient cars in film.
I don't know. I don't know how a modern horror fan would come to it without having kind of grown up with Stephen King or John Carpenter.
I'm not a horror fan. I didn't think this was scary in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, it's not exactly scary.
No.
No.
I thought some parts were nonsensical. I enjoyed it a lot, though. I agree with Helen in terms of the runnings, and this is tying in with what Felix said as well. The running time seems a bit long for actually what happens in the film, because I think there could be more story development somewhere along the line. I feel it could reshuffle it around, because there isn't much character development of
we spend quite a lot of time doing cool things because it's fun to watch the car doing cool things.
Yeah, because he just suddenly turns up one day with Alexander Paul, and you're like, oh, he's finished the car now, has he? And now the car's trying to kill her, and there's no kind of lead up into that. But then it's like, so I think the timing isn't off. I think 2 hours would kind of work if it had been better paced all around and had better kind of story bits in
Possibly
there.
my issue with it was, while I was watching it, I couldn't work out who the lead was.
Right.
And thinking back on it now as you're talking, the lead is the car. But the car has no character arc.
Just like,
the car
it's just evil gets
begins
fixed.
evil,
Yeah.
ends evil.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. So I'm going to give it 3.8, I reckon. I tell people who like horror-ish, like the 80s. I wouldn't even say it's 80s nostalgia, this. I think if you're interested in film in general, I'd say, yeah, have a listen, have a watch. But I really enjoyed it at the time, but I'm not sure how readily I'd recommend it. If someone said to me, should I watch it? I'm like, yeah, watch it. Definitely. Repeat viewing score.
Tom? Start with me or Felix?
Yeah.
Me. 5.
How many times?
I've seen it twice now, and I enjoyed it more the second time. Again, I find this with Carpenter generally, and I think it, as I say, it's that sort of combination of quite sort of classily drawn scripts with a real love of filmmaking and the frame of the film, and just sensation. Gore, the car's on fire, every sort of cool angle or weird cut he can fit in, and the music, obviously. I sort of find that it's like a sort of very soothing, kind of inspiring thing for me, watching a Carpenter film, and no one else makes films like him.
I felt that the car on fire must have been used in other films. I'm not sure if it's before, but certainly that kind of...
The image.
Yeah, the kind of image.
It feels very familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what that might be. But I'm sure it's happened.
There's a Radiohead video.
Karma Police from inside.
It wasn't on fire, was it? Though, but it was still it was chasing someone running down.
It does catch on fire later.
Yeah. Does it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's an homage to Christine. Who can say? But I'm generally going to say 5. I think basically, where I can watch
Karma Police.
Karma Police.
Yeah.
That's a music video in joke that you've just got. Yeah, nice. Every John Carpenter film, again, I haven't seen Ghost of Mars or The Ward, which as far as I know, nobody has seen, which is a film he made in the 2000s somewhere. I haven't quite seen every Carpenter feature, but every one I've seen thus far, I'd watch it again within a month or two if I really wanted to feel good.
Yeah. Felix?
I enjoyed watching it. I wouldn't choose to watch it again. I wouldn't be angry if it was on. I'm going to give it a 2.
Oh, wow.
Helen?
Yeah, I mean, it's an hour and 50, which is quite long. And there were times where I was just a bit like, can we kind of move on to the next bit? Yeah, I'm going to give it 3. If someone said, do you want to watch it? I've not seen it. I'd be like, yeah, sure, great. Probably going to watch it again, but not anytime soon.
So what'd you say, sorry? 3? 3. I'm going to go for 1.5. I don't think I'm going to watch it soon. Gosh, wow. But I will, if it's on TV and I was doing stuff in the flat, then it would happily be on kind of thing. Because it has to be that film where I'm not that fussed about seeing it, but when I know there's cool bits coming up, I will stand in front of the TV for that. There's kind of 5 minutes.
Then go back to the ironing.
Then go back to the other stuff, yeah. Small screen score.
It's hard to say, actually. I think this is one which is better if experienced almost like a video nasty. I think some of his films, like, again, in reference to your own episode about The Thing, I did see The Thing on re-release in the cinema with my friend Nathaniel Metcalf, who, if you've not had on Flixwatcher, you should, because he's a real
Nathaniel, come on, Flixwatcher, man.
Yeah, come on, Nat. He's a brilliant stand-up comedian and an excellent film buff, but he knew. So they re-released it for, I forget which anniversary, 30, 40, something. It must have been 30, I think. Was it 40? Anyway, and they released it in the cinemas for one day.
It wouldn't be 30. It wouldn't be 40.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be 40 yet. When did it come out? Anyway, 30.
82 or something.
30th anniversary, something like that. And it was on in cinemas for one day.
I hate that because they did that with Terminator, and I couldn't get to cinema that Terminator 2. I couldn't get to cinema that one day. It was just like, give me 2 days.
Exactly, yeah, 2 days, a weekend, like anything. But yeah, it's. But I thought it's gorgeous on the big screen. But I think with Christine, it's a lower budget premise and outcome than The Thing is. I think Halloween, the experience of watching it in a group is wonderful because of all that tension. This one, I think, is a real good home view, so I'm going to give it 5 again.
Felix?
I think you do need to watch it in the cinema.
Well, really?
You need to, but I think it's that this film's strongest elements are the spectacle of it, and the most of the second half is given over to special effects, practical effects, and a car on fire, and that's better in a cinema. So I've said it. I'm not taking it back.
Fine.
So I am going to give this a 3.
Helen?
So I do get what you're saying about kind of it has that sort of video nasty kind of vibe. So I did enjoy watching it at home very much. And I was really impressed how kind of shiny and crisp it looked as well. It did really look amazing. And I kind of...
I think that's because it's been shot well.
Yeah, it's like, this is like from 83, yet it looks really good. It doesn't look... At no point do you look at the car and go, oh, that could have been a model, or that kind of looks a bit fake, or that kind of looks, not real in obviously the sense that a car being possessed is real. Yeah. So while I did enjoy watching it at home, it did sort of think that obviously because we reviewed The Thing fairly recently, that maybe I should venture out and watch more John Carpenter on the big screen. But
Prince Charles will definitely have...
They're always doing seasons. Yeah. I haven't been to enough of them.
I'm not quite sure whether I want to do an all-nighter of John Carpenter. I feel that maybe...
Can you not pick and choose when you do these?
I think they've done it both, really. They've done like the mega... I mean, I don't want to do the pyjama party. I've got a home to go to. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
But they did also do a screening, I think because... Shout Factory or somebody released like digital remasters of all of his films, and they showed all of them on different nights.
Right.
But they're always showing. It's exactly like that. David Cronenberg, Stanley Kubrick, all these people are like Prince Charles, catnip. They can't get enough.
So score?
So 4.5.
I'm going to agree with you on a few points there, Helen, because we've had a few films recently, one being Sense and Sensibility, which is out at the moment, which was shot in the 90s, but I don't think it looks that good.
Oh, it looks awful.
Doesn't look as good. Ang Lee, I love the film. I really enjoyed the film. But
it was shot on someone's...
But it might be a bad Netflix
A bad transfer. Could be. Is it looking crap on Netflix?
It just doesn't look very clear or very crisp or
maybe a rubbish DOP.
Good quality.
But when compared to this, which does look clear and crisp and like really good quality, it's quite startling. When you do notice that kind of difference, it does kind of take you out of the film a bit. So I said would look better on a big screen, but I had a lot of fun. I wouldn't see it on the big screen though. I wouldn't.
You wouldn't make the effort?
I wouldn't make the effort, no. I'm not that big a John Carpenter fan. I didn't really like The Thing that much, as you probably heard in the...
You make me sick, Kobe, and I'm not going to speak to you again. But anyway.
I think your Big Trouble in Little China is my favourite.
It's really good.
Yeah,
it's very good.
It's just good. And I think because I caught it at the right time, which...
Again, referring to Nathaniel Metcalf, he pointed out that the whole centre of Guardians of the Galaxy of Star Wars is basically stolen from Big Trouble in Little China, because the whole movie, the Chris Pratt character is doing the... he goes up to... what's that guy's name? That actor who's in everything, the Asian actor, plays the evil lord in Big Trouble in Little China. David Hong, is it? I might be getting that wrong. Yeah, that's him.
Who's in
James Hong.
Who's in Wayne's World as well.
That's right. Yeah, and he goes up to him and says, "Yeah, you'll think twice before you mess with Jack Barton." And he goes, "Who's Jack Barton?" And he goes, "Me, I am." And that's very much Star-Lord's gag. Anyway, that was his theory.
What a bunch of a-holes.
Yeah. Oh, Sarah Finowich.
What did I say?
You didn't.
I didn't. So I'm going to go for 4. Engagement score, Tom.
5. No, I love it. I really do. And besides my brand new theory, which is debuted on Flixwatcher, by the way, about why I love John Carpenter so much, I do think that he's pulpy, but in the truest sense, in that he's obsessed with telling you like a thrilling story, like visually, if nothing else. You can not love his aesthetic, or you can not love his writing style or something. But him and also Dean Cundy, who I think this is, I'm not sure, who also did the thing, the cinematographer.
Yeah, okay.
I can't remember if this is him or not. But anyway, him and the DOPs he works with, they just come together and they produce these beautifully shot and edited films. And I just think he loves the films he makes, and he loves making them from like top to tail, which is why he does so many jobs within his films. And I just, it's a genre all of his own, and I can't get tired of it.
It is like he's one man workforce, isn't he?
Yeah,
absolutely.
He is. He started using pseudonyms for several jobs. Like I think Prince of Darkness is written by Alan Quatermass, which is a name he stole to pay homage to Nigel Neal's Quatermass Experiment, and partly because producers who were bringing him in or studios, distribution networks were pointing at his posters and going, there where it says written by John Carpenter, directed by John Carpenter, produced by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, John Carpenter, film music by John Carpenter and Alan Howarth. It starts to look a little big-headed. So he started making up names to write his films under.
That's what Robert Rodriguez did for his first film.
Did he?
Yes. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. The one before Desperado. And he did that as like a...
El Mariachi.
El Mariachi, yes.
Yeah.
So he did like half the stuff on there.
Yeah.
And then he just made lots of names.
Oh, great.
To obviously make it look like they had a full cast and crew and everything behind it to make him look like a serious filmmaker. Yeah. All documented in his book. He's got one book. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, what's it called? It's got a cool name, like Rogue Filmmaker or something.
I'll find it whilst I get your score.
Yes.
Felix.
My score, you invited me round for a lovely pasta bake.
Yeah, I was going to say, does the pasta bake feature into your score?
Yeah,
I'm going to take this very personally.
You put broccoli into it.
I did, yep.
Helping me get my vitamin C.
I had a roux sauce as well. And grainy mustard.
At a time that I was struggling with a cold, so thank you for that.
Oh, of course you were, yeah. I'm glad that was helpful to you.
Well, thank you. You cured it.
Good.
And I had a very nice time, and I didn't look at my phone, so it has to be a 5.
There you go.
The book is called Rebel Without a Crew.
That's it.
Yeah. It's a really good fun book about how he paid for El Mariachi by going to do the clinical trials.
Oh, wow.
So he paid for that, went to do those, wrote the script whilst there. So he wasn't paying for any accommodation.
Yeah.
All his food paid for and stuff like that. I was like, that's dedication, mate.
Don't teach you that in film school, do they?
No.
No, they do not.
Helen, engagement score.
So, yeah, I think it just is a little bit slow, and the sort of the final ending is a little bit of an anticlimax, I think, given what's come before it in that. Although the final kind of ending in kind of like not the twist, the
last shot.
It's not a twist, it's a...
What are you referring to?
The bit with the music and the compactor,
bit with the music?
the crush thingy.
What,
and
the
reveal.
catharsis, I
the
guess.
reveal.
Yeah.
The reveal is a lot of fun.
Yes, true.
What's the reveal? Sorry, I'm confused now.
So the car's being compacted,
Cubed.
and they sort of look at it, and they can hear like the
music,
pop music,
And
they're like,
it's still trying to get out.
Car, but it turns out it's just some guy listening to it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. So 5. So what did you score? Sorry, all the 5s.
I believe she said 5.
Yeah, it's just a little bit slow. So 4.7. I was kind of waiting for it to pick up and get going.
I'm going to go for 3 here. Bounced around a bit, and I did enjoy it. But I think the pacing around, I'm not sure slow is the word for me. I think just the pacing and the story structure could have been a bit more folded up. So I'm going to go for, did I just say the score?
The 3, you said.
3,
yeah.
And that gives us
You put
an
4
overall
there.
score
Yeah, okay.
of
Now-
3.8250.
I think it's a very, very
wrong.
valid claim to say this is a 4-star movie. I love it. I think it is probably a 4-star movie, and I think that's totally appropriate.
Well, you're just upgrading it.
Well,
problem is-
the recommendability average is just a 4, so you could take that one.
Yeah, there you go. That's
The
4.
recommendability
Oh, well,
average is
3.82. Yeah, you round that up, surely.
No
one's
because-
giving something 3.8 stars. Come
But
on.
the problem is you're rallying against all the other
You're
scores.
rounding up 4.125 to 5.
No, I'm running out 3.82 to 4.
Oh, I see.
There
No,
you
but you're
go.
against all the other films that have their particular decimal places to 5.
That's true, yeah. I mean,
figures.
it
So
is-
that's
it is-
the
it's
thing.
a game of margins.
Unique scoring system which has caused
Fights.
some
Let's have one now.
some fights.
You can round it to 5. You can round it to 4. You can round it to... Well, it doesn't matter. So 3.8250 is the overall score. Thank you very much, guys. Can you let us know how we can find you online and follow Felix's boats, trials and tribulations?
Boat updates,
My
yes.
boat update. I'm at Felix Trench on Twitter and Instagram, and as I live on a boat, sometimes I tell people about what's going on my boat, often trying to track down weird light bulbs. Boats have very strange light bulbs.
Are they that
Turns out-
strange, though, or did you just go to B&Q and get one?
No, I eventually found it in Halfords. It was a very specific kind of indicator light, which is the one that is used for the 3 overhead lights in my galley. So I had a dark one, and I know where
Kitchen.
to go now. Thank you.
For landlubbers, that's kitchen.
Do you have a head, or is it a toilet?
I've got a...
He's got a head.
I do have a head. I have what I call a decorative toilet, in that I've got a kind of emergency camping toilet that I never use. Because the thing about camping toilets is you have to empty them.
Yes.
I'm prudish
Not
around my
interested.
own fluids.
You are such a square, Trench, because like the salty thrill of emptying your poos and wees out of the porthole, that's part of the whole boat experience. You've not even experienced it.
I'm at Salty Thrill on Twitter and Instagram.
I do like it also, just to touch on it, when it's bad weather, inclement weather, I think, oh no, what's happened to Felix's boat? Because then I find out the next day, boat update, I've got tarpaulin now. I don't know.
Oh, no, that was my old boat.
He's got a new boat
one
now.
now.
Yeah. I was on a boat that was a marriage between boat and shed.
Right,
which
yes.
didn't really have a working roof
No.
for, most of the summer, but it was fine because we had a very hot summer.
I was thinking, because I was concerned during Storm Dennis and Storm Kira.
Yes, so
He's
was
moved-
I.
moved
And
to
I'll
a
tell
better
you why
boat.
I was very concerned during Storm Kira was fine, but Storm Dennis, we in the marina, all of us got an email from our harbour master. The harbour master sent out this email,
Love this
which
insight.
said, folks, please make sure that your lines, that's the ropes, are secured properly. This is how to secure your ropes. And I was like, well, it's happening tomorrow. I don't know where you get new ropes from. I don't know how you secure new... And my ropes are overgrowing with moss. So I was awake the whole of Storm Dennis, which hit around 10, 11 p.m. and then finished about 6 a.m.
Oh, God.
Absolutely convinced that I'd torn away from my moorings and was gently drifting down the Thames, that I was going to turn up in the Evening Standard mistaken for a whale.
Oh, God. Yeah.
But it was fine. It was absolutely fine.
Your old boat was less a sort of boat and more of a floating coffin, wasn't it, really?
So I found my old
expected you
boat's
to bury you in it.
brochure.
Am I right?
My old boat it's specifically designed, it's an American boat, and it was designed for use on the American lakes. And in the brochure, it says this is a great boat.
How did it get over here?
Presumably on the back of another, I don't know, maybe it hitched a ride by plane. But
going to London?
Yeah. And just stuck out its thumb. The brochure that I found online said this is a great boat for up to 2 nights sleep.
Up to 2.
I lived on that for a year.
You did. That's why your spine is now completely C-shaped.
Yeah. I'm on a much nicer one now, which has a fire, and I've recently found the little pane of glass that fell out of the fire so I can fix it.
So we can follow your boat stories at Felix Trench.
At Felix Trench.
On Instagram.
And I do podcasts. I'm in a podcast called Wooden Overcoats with Tom Crowley. That's the full name of the show, Wooden Overcoats with Tom Crowley.
Wooden Overcoats with me, Tom Crowley. That's what I've rebranded it, yep. And also Quid Pro Euro, the very, very funny, absurdist comedy, bite-sized VHS comedy.
But yep, absolutely.
That's it. And I'm in Wooden Overcoats. You should listen to that. If you have listened to that already and you haven't heard Victoriosity, what's wrong with you? It's a brilliant alternate history, Victorian, detective, sci-fi podcast. And also, if you've heard both of those, or actually, even if you haven't heard either of them, make your first priority listening to Crowley Time with me, Tom Crowley, which is my sketch comedy podcast on all good podcast platforms now.
I enjoyed you in an early episode of Flixwatcher.
Yeah, that was very good. Episode 1 of Flixwatcher, Christmas Ham, the best episode so far.
Just listen to Tom Crowley, he's very funny.
The best episode until now.
Well, there you go.
Thanks so much for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having us on the best episode.
Can we record 2 more now? Is that all right?
We can do, yeah.
We've got a screen here. We'll just pop Netflix on
and
then
watch the film and then just record afterwards.
Yeah, bash another one out. Why not?
Record it while we're watching it.
Yeah.
Christmas Ham.
Bye.
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 Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes, and Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Ben, and that's Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.